Heartwarming twist, single dad discovers amazing love with billionaire after fixing her motorbike. On a sunny afternoon, with the hustle and bustle of Main Street alive with energy, Jake stood proudly in his small bike repair shop. The scent of grease lingered in the air as his hands deftly tightened a bolt. He was a dedicated single father, navigating life with humility, determination, and an unwavering love for his spirited teenage daughter, Lily. Despite the challenges they faced, the warmth of their connection made them a real team, battling every curveball that life threw their way. Just as a soft breeze rustled the hanging tools, a sleek line of black and chrome roared to a halt outside. Jake's attention snapped to the young entrepreneur in a polished leather jacket. Her confident demeanor and expensive motorbike signaled a world entirely different from his own. The bike sputtered, then shuddered to a stop, right in front of his shop. With an eyebrow raised, Jake stepped out to investigate the scene. A moment of fate intertwined. The contrast was stark. His shop, worn but full of character, and her luxury motorbike, a status symbol built on ambition. But when their eyes met, the barriers of worth and wealth faded, replaced by a shared admiration for grit and the grind. They exchanged stories of hard work, and with each laugh that echoed between them, something electric sparked into being. Both felt their dreams mirrored in one another, chasing ambition, though from different sides of the social divide. Days turned into weeks, and laughter turned into stolen smiles. Jake found himself thinking of Ava, the high-spirited entrepreneur who had somehow snuck into his heart. Their playgrounds felt so different. Jake had lived a life defined by simple values, while Ava sometimes seemed burdened by the trappings of wealth. Yet, as the lines blurred, Jake couldn't help but feel he had found someone who understood struggle in her own way, but not everything sparkled in their blossoming friendship. With his past as a veteran lurking in shadows, doubts crept in. Would Ava's affluent friends unquestioningly accept him? Joke about his worn jeans or his bike repair shop? The fracture of class shifted the ground beneath his feet, and soon their moments together felt charged with deeper meaning. Jake knew he needed to confront those fears, especially with the upcoming Veterans Charity event looming ahead, a chance to showcase heart and purpose. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as the excitement built in Jake's chest, a misunderstanding snagged their connection. One late night, words left unsaid twisted into doubts, and Jake pulled back just when hope shimmered like stars. Alone in his workshop that evening, the scent of metal and oil contradicted the wishful atmosphere outside. While Lily's laughter danced through the air, Jake wrestled with his choices. Would it matter to Ava that he was just a simple man with a heart full of dreams? Would she see past the ceilings built by wealth and status? The charity event was days away, and with every passing hour, the uncertainty grew heavier. Would love and perseverance conquer the unseen divide between them, or would insecurity snatch away the promise of what could be? In the silence of the shop, Jake clutched the tools close, heart racing. Would he seize the chance for something beautiful, or let it slip away forever? The day of the charity event broke clear and crisp. Jake stood in front of his mirror, staring at the reflection of a man who felt both hopeful and terrified. He fiddled with the collar of his shirt, a small concession from his usual t-shirt and jeans. The quiet thrum of anxiety drummed in his chest. He couldn't shake the question that haunted him: would Ava be there? Would she show up and suddenly make everything feel right, or would the fear of being judged keep her from standing next to him? "Dad, are you ready?" Lily's voice broke through the fog of his thoughts. With a deep breath, he turned to her. She looked lovely, the bright blue of her dress contrasting with her dark hair. "Almost, kiddo." He hesitated, just thinking. "Thinking too much, I bet," she teased, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "That could be true," he chuckled, but inside, he felt the tension twist tighter. Meanwhile, Ava prepared in her own world, pacing through her apartment. The walls were adorned with luxurious decor, bright and airy, but they felt stifling today. As she applied a hint of lipstick, she gazed past her reflection, lost in thought. She couldn't shake the memory of Jake, the way his hands skillfully fixed her bike, or how they laughed over simple joys. He was real, unpretentious, in a way that exposed the hollow glamour of her life. Yet, that night had changed things between them. The fear of miscommunication lingered like an unwelcome guest, and she shook her head, trying to banish it. Today was about stepping out of her comfort zone, going after what she truly felt inside. Just as she finished tying her hair back, her phone buzzed. It was a text from Jake. "Looking forward to seeing you tonight. Hope you can come." Her heart skipped. The honesty in his message melted away her lingering anxiety. It was like a beacon calling her to be brave, to face whatever came next openly. As evening approached, the charity event blossomed into full swing, laughter and chatter filling the air as lights twinkled overhead. Jake arrived first, scanning the crowd, praying for a glimpse of Ava. The event had all the usual hustle of wealth, a stage with speakers, a silent auction, and the enthusiastic clinking of wine glasses. Lily stood at his side, encouraging him with just a squeeze of his hand. "You'll be fine, Dad. Just be yourself." With each moment, he felt that knot in his stomach tighten. Just as he was trying to weave through the crowd, he spotted Ava across the room, radiant in an elegant black dress. She was surrounded by people, her laughter bright as she shared a story. But as she caught his eye, everything else blurred away. She was the compass guiding him through uncertainty. "Jake!" She hurried over, her enthusiasm contagious. His heart raced as she approached. "Hi. You made it," he said, too eager. "I wouldn't miss it for the world. You look amazing." The compliment rolled off her tongue, brightening their shared space. Distracting chatter surged around them, but it was just the two of them in that moment. Suddenly, Jake's fears flooded back. "Ava, I need to." Jake, she interrupted gently, stepping closer. "I want to talk about us, about this connection we have. I feel it too." Just then, a group of her affluent friends gathered nearby, their laughter cutting the air. He hesitated, the shadow of doubt creeping up once more. Would they notice? Would they judge? As the noise faded and the crowd enveloped them, Jake knew he had to decide. Would he muster the strength to step forward and claim the joy he felt sneaking into his heart? With the walls of his past pressuring him, he took a breath. "Maybe we can find a quiet spot to talk." "Absolutely," Ava smiled, her eyes deep with understanding. But just as they turned to escape the clamor, a voice called across the room, one that promised to shatter the precious moment they were about to share. "Ava, there you are. We need to discuss the auction details." Jake's heart sank as he felt the familiar weight of his insecurities threatening to hold him back again. As Ava cast a fleeting glance between him and her friends, Jake felt time freeze. Would he have the courage to step forward now, or would fear hold him captive once more? As doubts swirled, he whispered softly, "What do we do now?" Jake watched as Ava hesitated, her friends calling her with an urgency that felt suffocating. The glow in her eyes dimmed slightly, but the smile lingered on her lips, an indication that she still wanted to talk. The chatter around them thrummed like an irritating hum, turning his world into a cacophony of what-ifs and lingering thoughts. "Just a minute. I'll be right back," Ava called, her voice bright despite the tightness that was creeping into Jake's chest. As she turned back to him, he braced himself for what he hoped would be a moment of clarity, a chance to express what had been brewing between them. "Jake," she said, her tone taking on a deeper note, "I really do want to talk about this, about us." But before he could respond, she was drawn back to her friends, who had apparently deemed the auction details far more important than whatever connection was transparent between them. He watched her walk away, her dress sweeping the floor, a graceful silhouette amongst the crowd. Dad, you okay? Lily's voice broke through his fog. He turned to her, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Yeah, just thinking. You looked like you were about to explode, she replied with a light laugh. It was a sweet attempt to ease his tension, but it only added to it. As Jake glanced back at Ava, now engrossed in a conversation that felt light years away from him, a realization washed over him. He wanted to step out of the shadows not just for himself but for Lily too. If she could watch her father fight for happiness, how beautiful would that be? I'm going to go talk to her, Jake said, no longer uncertain. Really? Lily brightened, and for a moment, he saw her excitement reflected in her eyes. Yeah. Really. He took a deep breath and started toward Ava. The crowd bumped against him like waves crashing against a shore, each step bringing deeper intention. Ava's laughter rang out again, lighting up the air, but Jake wasn't dissuaded. He pushed through, ignoring the flutter in his stomach. Finally, he reached her side, his heart pounding. Ava! He called, and she turned, her expression shifting from surprise to warmth in an instant. Jake! I thought you were. She glanced back toward the group of friends, concern flickering in her eyes. I don't care about the auction details. I care about talking to you. His voice came out more passionately than he intended, but desperation is sometimes the best fuel. For a moment, she just looked at him, her striking features painted in the soft light of the chandeliers overhead. The noise around them began to fade, and it felt like they were suspended in time. Okay, she said finally, a hint of a challenge sparking in her eyes. What do you want to say? I want to know where we stand. I can't stop thinking about you, about us. He felt raw, open in a way he never experienced before. But before he could continue, her friends re-emerged, breaking their bubble with smiles and laughter, oblivious to the thick tension hanging in the air. Sorry to interrupt, Ava. We really need you, one of them chirped. Jake's heart sank again, but he squeezed Ava's hand lightly, desperate not to lose what they began. Please let us not lose this moment, he urged softly, looking deep into her eyes. I'll find you later, I promise, she mouthed, her expression filled with something that sent a rush of hope through him. As she slipped away again, Jake was left standing amidst a swirling sea of chatter, feeling like a ship lost in fog. Lily returned to his side, the hope in her expression slowly dimming as she realized the moment was slipping from their grasp. What did you want to say? She asked gently, her curiosity piercing through his haze. Jake paused, weighing the moment. Was he prepared for this? Could he lay his heart out for everyone to see? I think I'm ready to fight for something real, he said finally. Lily's eyes lit up again. Then let us do it. But just then, he spotted a figure in the crowd, someone he hadn't expected. The unmistakable presence of a newcomer caught his attention, threatening to disrupt everything. Was it truly time to embrace his new beginning, or would past ghosts rise to stop him? The stakes were higher than ever, and as he clenched his fists, he knew that whatever happened next could change everything. Jake stood frozen, his heart racing as he processed the sight of the figure making its way through the crowd. It was Ethan, Ava's ex-boyfriend, and a heaviness settled in Jake's chest. His commanding presence wove through the throng with an air of confidence that felt unsettling. Dad, who's that? Lily asked, her eyes narrowing at the sight of the newcomer. Just someone from the past, he muttered, irritation rising. He didn't want any past distractions now. He had finally made a decision to act, and this wasn't how he envisioned the night going. Should we go? Lily's voice trembled just enough for Jake to notice. No, we'll stay. Let us just see what happens, he replied, trying to sound more certain than he felt. He didn't want to make Lily anxious, he wanted to shield her and himself from the tension brewing on the edges of the gathering. Ethan approached Ava, who was still caught up in conversation with her friends, blissfully unaware of the storm about to brew. Jake watched as the two exchanged words. The corners of Ethan's mouth curved up in that smug way Jake disliked so much. He could see Ava's expression changing, her laughter fading as she turned slightly, instinctively looking for support within her friends. "Maybe we should help her," Lily suggested, her childish instincts kicking in. "Not yet," Jake said, his eyes still glued to the scene playing out before him. "Let us just wait a moment." As the tension thickened, he tried to lock onto something else, the way the light sparkled in the glass of champagne or the joyful sound of music wafting from the background. But his focus remained broken as he saw Ethan place a hand on Ava's shoulder, leaning in closer as she visibly stiffened. In that moment, as if reading Jake's frustration, Lily squeezed his hand tighter, her own anxiety mirrored in her eyes. "Isn't she going to tell him to leave her alone?" she whispered, her face painted with concern. Jake felt a surge of protectiveness rise inside him. He couldn't let this slide, not when Ava had just hinted at something real between them. "Come on," he said, steeling himself, "let us go." As they walked across the floor, the crowd seemed to part for him, as if sensing the urgency in his stride. He could see Ava's face now, a mix of disbelief and discomfort as Ethan continued to step closer. "Ava!" Jake called out, his voice cutting through the chatter like a knife through butter. She turned, her eyes lighting up at the sight of him. But Ethan didn't relinquish his hold. Instead, he glanced back, irritation flashing across his features as if Jake had dared to intrude on a private spectacle. "Ava, can we talk? Just the two of us?" Jake's words hung in the air, heavy and full of determination. Ethan smirked, clearly dismissive. "She doesn't need to talk to someone like you, Jake." But Ava stepped forward, breaking out of Ethan's grip. "What are you doing, Jake?" she asked, confusion clouding her tone. "I'm here because I want to fight for us," he said, his heart hammering against his chest. The moment felt fragile and electrifying, everything hanging in the balance. The chatter around them faded to a dim murmur as Ava's expression shifted from confusion to something deeper. "I want that too, but I don't know if this is the right time." At that moment, as the air thickened with uncertainty, Jake could see a glance of understanding flicker across her face, surrounded by the chaos of the gathering. He could feel Lily's grip on his hand loosening as she watched the complicated tapestry of emotions unfold before them. Before Jake could respond, though, Ethan chimed in, "You think you can just sweep in here and take her away? She doesn't need the complications of your life. Leave her alone, Jake." Something inside Jake flared, a mix of anger and protectiveness surging through him. Yet, as he looked at Ava, the storm that had once roared inside him softened, replaced by the desire to stand firm without aggression. "Maybe we both need to clear the air," Jake suggested, glancing between Ava and Ethan, feeling the heat of their tangled past pull at the edges of his new beginning. Uncertainty hung in the air like thick fog. What would Ava choose? Would she embrace the connection they'd begun to build, or would old ties bind her once more? Jake's heart raced at the crossroads where hope and fear intermingled, wondering if this moment might shatter everything he had begun to dream about. Jake felt the weight of the gathering pressing in around him, a world alive with laughter and dancing, but for him, it had narrowed to this fiery confrontation. Ethan stood there, his bravado simmering beneath the surface, ready to lash out if provoked. Jake's attention flickered back to Ava, whose eyes were a reflection of confusion and longing, an emotional battlefield all their own. "Ava, just think about it," Ethan pushed, his voice smooth but laced with menace. "You don't belong with him. You know he's not in your league, not anymore." Ava's lips pursed into a thin line as she held Jake's gaze, her inner turmoil visibly battling against the certainty of Ethan's words. Jake could almost feel the bricks of her past trying to wall her off again, building a fortress around her heart. With every second that passed, he sensed the stakes rising higher. "I believe in us, Ava," Jake said, quickening his pace, closing the space between them. "I know it's messy, but that's life, right? None of it's simple, but I promise I'll be here. I want us to try." The crowd continued to swirl around them, but in this moment, it felt as if they were in a bubble, isolated from the noise. He could see the flicker of doubt dissipating in her eyes, replaced by something flickering hope. Ethan chuckled, dark and humorless. Hope? Look where that got you, Ava. A guy who runs away when things get tough. Do you really think he can take care of you the way I can? Jake clenched his jaw. Anger threatened to rise, but he held it in, searching for the right words that could split through Ethan's bravado. You don't get to decide that, Jake said, his voice steady. She deserves someone who respects her choices, someone who believes in her. I'm not asking for a knight in shining armor, Ava interjected, surprising both Jake and Ethan. Her voice was stronger now, tinged with determination. But I need someone who is real, who won't turn tail at the first sign of trouble. Jake felt a smile tug at the corners of his mouth. In that moment, he saw Ava for who she really was: strong, courageous, ready to fight for her own heart. Ethan's demeanor shifted, surprise flaring in his eyes. So, is that what you think this is? A fairy tale? You'll just run off with him and live happily ever after? No, it's not a fairy tale, Ava responded, her voice steady. It's just me standing here, making my choice. Jake took a step closer, emboldened by her words. I'm not perfect, and I can't promise an easy path. But I'll always be honest with you. I care, Ava, and I want to see where this can go. The tension in the air thickened again, the three of them locked in a complex triangle. Ava's gaze shifted between Jake and Ethan, and Jake could see her weighing the past against the potential future. As seconds stretched out, Jake's heart thudded loudly in his chest. He wanted her to see all that they could build together: the laughter, the journeys, the moments of everyday life that could culminate in something beautiful. Finally, Ava took a deep breath, her expression resolute. I'm not running away from my past, but I'm also not letting it define my future. Jake, I want to explore this with you if you're willing. Ethan's eyes darkened, a storm brewing behind them. You don't know what you're getting into, Ava. This guy he'll just complicate your life. Maybe that's exactly what I need, she shot back, a spark igniting between her and Jake, bridging the distance that had felt so considerable only moments ago. As the music swelled around them, Jake felt a rush of hope. They were at the brink of something profound, but he could see Ethan still lurking there like a shadow, refusing to accept the light. Let us get out of here, Jake urged softly, glancing at Ava to gauge her reaction. Her smile was tentative but warm, a flicker of promise. Yes, let us go. As they turned to leave, Jake felt a tension melt away, but the question loomed large: could their connection survive the specter of Ethan's anger? In an impulsive moment, he glanced back only to find Ethan stepping forward, fury now palpable. You think this is over, Jake? You have no idea what you're up against. Jake felt the unsettling chill of foreboding sweep over him as they hurried away. Whatever came next, he knew one thing was certain: this was only the beginning. The night air was electric, laden with the scent of summer blooms and an undercurrent of uncertainty as Jake and Ava made their way through the throng of partygoers. Each step felt like a silent rebellion against the doubts that loomed behind them, both of them acutely aware of Ethan's glare, still burning in their minds. Did I do the right thing? Ava's voice whispered as they stepped outside. Under the moonlight, her features were softer, illuminated by a tenderness Jake yearned to embrace. You were incredible, Jake replied, his heart racing as he met her gaze. You stood up for what you want. That's brave. He wanted to wrap her in his arms, to shield her from every possible storm, but he held back, respecting the turmoil she might still be feeling. As they walked towards her car, the glow of the streetlights flickered like the hope igniting inside him. He felt alive, awash with emotions that had begun bubbling to the surface since they first stepped into that chaotic fray. Ava laughed lightly, though it was laced with nerves. I can't believe I actually talked back to him. I've never done that before. Yeah, well, maybe he pushed you just a little too hard. Jake tried to keep things light, but the tension from inside still clung to them like a memory. I just wanted to feel, she trailed off, gripping her keys tightly as they reached her car. I wanted to feel like I mattered. Jake's chest tightened at her words. You do matter, Ava. To me, at least. Her eyes flickered to him, searching, and he saw the crumbling edges of her past striking at her again. That's the problem, isn't it? The past is always there, reminding me of my mistakes. No one is perfect, Jake replied, willing a steadiness into his own voice. What matters most is the choice to try. And you tried. With a determined breath, she unlocked her car, the engine purring alive against the quiet. Let's south just drive for a while. Her request was simple, and Jake felt a rush of warmth at her need to escape. Sure, he said with a nod, sliding into the passenger seat as she cranked up the music. The sound filled the small space between them, hopeful and inviting. They drove in silence for a while, the rhythm of the road lulling them into a fragile calm. Jake watched her profile, the way her hair danced in the breeze, the soft determination etched on her face. There was something about this moment that felt both right and yet precariously delicate. She pulled into a secluded overlook where the stars twinkled above like scattered diamonds. Ava turned off the engine and sat still for a moment, lost in thought as the world beyond became hushed, a stark contrast to the chaos they had left behind. Jake, she said finally, her voice a thread of hesitation woven with yearning. What if this is just a beautiful dream? Something that will slip away the moment I wake up? No dream lasts forever, but that doesn't mean it isn't real. He turned to her, his sincerity flooding the space between them. The moments that matter, the ones that shape us, those are the real ones. And I want to be part of that, Ava. Her eyes glistened, vulnerability surfacing between them, but then a shadow passed over her face. Ethan, he won't just give up. He'll come after us. Jake's chest tightened at the inevitability of conflict. I know. But I'm not going anywhere. I'll face him if I have to. Will you? The question hung in the air, a desperate plea cloaked in uncertainty. Yes, he assured her firmly, a resolve igniting within him. Whatever it takes. Somewhere in the depths of Ava's expression, he saw a flicker of hope, and that small spark set his heart racing. Just then, the sound of a car engine hummed on the road behind them. Jake's stomach dropped as he flicked his gaze toward the glow of headlights creeping closer. Ava, we should go, he urged, a sudden panic slicing through their moment, but as they turned to look, realization washed over both of them. It was Ethan's car. Ava's voice trembled as the light flooded their haven, illuminating the tense path ahead. The confrontation was coming, and Jake was ready to fight. For what he believed in, feeling the panic gripping his heart, he caught Ava's frightened gaze. Whatever happens, just know I'm here for you. But as the engine shut off and footsteps approached, Jake was left wondering, would standing together be enough against the darkness about to envelop them? The chilled air hung thick around them as the headlights flickered off, leaving only the faint sound of Ethan's footsteps crunching on gravel. Jake's heart pounded, the rhythm matching the rush of adrenaline surging through him. He could sense Ava's anxiety radiating from her, and he turned to reassure her one last time, gripping her hand gently. Stay close. I've got your back, he whispered, his voice steady despite the chaos swirling within. Ethan stepped into view, his silhouette stark against the moonlit backdrop. He wore a smirk, the kind that made Jake's blood boil. The look was all too familiar, a mix of arrogance and possessiveness, as if he believed he owned Ava. Jake, Ethan greeted, his voice dripping with disdain. What a surprise to see you here. Trying to play the hero? Ava's breath hitched beside him, and Jake felt fury wash over him. Maybe it's time someone reminded you that you don't control everything, he shot back, trying to keep his words calm and steady. Ethan scoffed, stepping closer. I'm here to look out for Ava. You think she wants to waste her time with a what did you call yourself? A wannabe. The taunt struck like a dagger, aimed straight at Jake's insecurities. He could feel his resolve wavering, but then he glanced at Ava. She deserved more than what Ethan had ever given her. He could see it in her eyes and the way she stood next to him, taking small, steadying breaths. "I'm not the one who rushed into a relationship just to feel something," Jake challenged, stepping closer, heart racing. "You think that's love? It's selfish." The smirk faltered for a split second on Ethan's face, but then it returned, fueled by anger. "You don't know anything about love, Jake. You're just a distraction." Ava squeezed Jake's hand, bolstering his courage. "Stop, Ethan. I'm done being your puppet. You can't just come here, acting like you care when all you do is control and manipulate." Her voice was stronger, each word slicing through the tension like a knife. Jake's chest swelled with pride at her declaration. This was the Ava he knew, the one ready to reclaim her voice. But the pride quickly morphed into dread as the confrontation escalated. "Control?" Ethan's eyes flashed. "You think you're better than me now? You're throwing everything away for someone like him?" He gestured toward Jake, dismissive. "He's not worth it." And suddenly, Jake felt a rush of fear. What if Ethan was right? What if Ava did end up regretting this? He couldn't let that doubt settle in. But, before he could say anything, Ava took a step forward, her expression fierce. "He is worth it. More than you ever were." Ethan laughed bitterly, the sound hollow against the stillness of the night. "You think I'd let you walk away that easily?" He sneered. "This isn't over." Chaos hummed just beneath the surface, each word snapping like a taut string ready to break. Jake felt the heat of the moment closing in, but the thought of losing Ava fueled the fire inside him. "Enough!" Jake shouted, feeling the weight of the confrontation press down on him. "If you care about her even a little, let her go." Ethan's eyes hardened, and in that moment, Jake knew there would be consequences. But he was ready. To him, Ava was worth fighting for. The air crackled, Jake could feel the impending clash looming around them. It was now or never. "Let us just go, Ava," he urged quietly, his grip remaining firm on her hand, ready to face whatever fallout awaited. But as they turned to leave, Ethan called out, his voice chilling. "You'll regret this, both of you. I promise you that." Ava stopped, her breath catching once more. Panic flickered in her eyes, but Jake kept hold, grounding her. "We're stronger together," he reminded her softly. A sudden gust of wind swept through the overlook, rustling the leaves as if urging them on. They could leave together, but what if Ethan's threat came true? An unease settled in, heavy and unwelcome. Jake breathed in the night air, determination stealing him. Whatever happened, he wouldn't let fear dictate his choices anymore. As they climbed into the car, the weight of uncertainty still lingered. "Do you think he'll really come after us?" Ava asked, anxiety lacing her voice. Jake turned to her, and the moonlight reflected the determination in his eyes. "He can try, but I won't back down. We'll face this together." Yet even as he said the words, doubt danced in the corners of his mind like shadows. Would they be able to withstand whatever storm was heading their way? And just as they pulled onto the highway, the fine line between freedom and danger blurred, setting their hearts racing. They were embarking on a journey neither could predict, and both hoped it wouldn't lead to heartbreak. But with Ethan lurking in the shadows, would they really be able to persevere when the real battle was only just beginning? The car surged forward, the engine humming beneath them as the headlights pierced the darkness. Jake glanced over at Ava, who was staring straight ahead, her expression a mixture of steely determination and apprehension. The night outside felt full of promises, but Jake couldn't shake the unease clinging to him. "Are you okay?" he asked carefully, breaking the silence that had settled like a heavy blanket in the car. Ava turned toward him, and her eyes held a flicker of vulnerability that made his heart squeeze. "I don't know, Jake. I feel free, but also terrified." Jake nodded, understanding her fear all too well. "We just took a big step. But we can't let Ethan control our lives any longer. We have to believe this was the right decision. Ava took a deep breath, and for a moment, he could see the resolve building within her. You're right. I want to believe that. I don't want to keep looking over my shoulder. The road unfurled ahead, bathed in moonlight, and yet the weight of their past hung like an anchor. As they drove, Jake couldn't help but replay Ethan's chilling words in his mind. You'll regret this. What if he tries to find us? Ava's question broke through his thoughts, laced with a fear he wanted to protect her from. We'll handle it. Together, he promised, letting the sincerity of his words fill the car. There was strength in her presence, and he wanted her to know that whatever twisted game Ethan played, they would confront it side by side. Minutes passed, but the moment felt heavy with anticipation as Jake steered into a small diner glowing in the distance. How about we stop for a coffee? It'll help clear our heads, he suggested, hoping a change of scenery might ease the tension. Ava nodded, her smile flickering at the suggestion. I could use a break. And maybe some pancakes? 2 steaming cups and a plate piled high with pancakes later, the diner felt like a haven away from the chaos. Ava's laughter mingled with the clattering of plates around them. In this cocoon of warmth, Jake found a flicker of hope. This place is cute, Ava declared, her heart lifting as she watched the waitress refill their coffee. I'm glad we stopped. Jake watched her with a sense of reverence. This time together was everything he wanted. But in the back of his mind, Ethan's threats lingered, a storm on the horizon. Even as they laughed and shared bites of pancakes, a chill settled over him. Jake? Ava's voice pulled him from his thoughts. What happens if he really comes after us? I mean, what if he finds us? He set his fork down with purpose, meeting her gaze. If he does, we'll stand together. I won't let him take you away from me. There's too much at stake now. Ava's eyes softened, but doubt danced across her features. It's just hard not to think about it. He knows me maybe too well. Then we need a plan, Jake said, an idea forming. We can't just keep running. Let us figure out how to deal with him, face him on our terms. A spark ignited in her eyes. You really think we can do that? Absolutely, he replied, a fiery determination taking hold. You've already faced him once tonight. You stood up for yourself. If we stick together, there's nothing we can't handle. Without warning, the door of the diner swung open, a wave of cold air sweeping through. Jake's heart raced as he turned, half expecting to see Ethan at the threshold. But instead, it was only a group of young friends laughing, voices echoing with carefree spirits. The moment passed, but that anxiety clung to the edges of Jake's mind like a tenacious shadow. Just when he thought they were safe, he felt uncertainty creeping back in. Ava reached across the table, her hand brushing against his. Whatever happens, I'm glad I chose this. I know it sounds cheesy, but being with you feels right. With a half smile, Jake squeezed her hand. And I'll do everything to keep it that way. But let us prepare for the worst. I refuse to let Ethan ruin this for us. Just then, a notification pinged on his phone, and Jake's heart dropped as he saw a text from an unknown number. You can't run from the past. Forever. Panic surged through him. They weren't safe. Not yet. What is it? Ava asked, her voice thick with concern. Jake hesitated, knowing this moment could change everything. He would have to tell her the truth, and the truth might shatter the fragile peace they had found. I think Ethan knows where we are. Jake stared at the glowing screen of his phone, the message hanging there like an ominous cloud. He could feel Ava's anxious gaze drilling into him, waiting for an answer that might reveal the entire depth of their situation. The air felt thick, each second stretching into eternity. Jake? She pressed, her voice barely a whisper, laden with concern that he cleared his throat, but the words felt trapped. He had wanted this moment to be one of comfort and hope, not a harbinger of their past. But he knew he couldn't hide the truth from her. It's a text, from someone who knows Ethan. Ava's face paled, and the warmth of the diner suddenly felt cold as fear flickered in her eyes. What does it say? Jake swallowed hard and sat up straight, forcing himself to project a sense of calm he didn't quite feel. It says, you can't run from the past forever. Ava's hand slipped from his, her expression shifting from warmth to a frosty determination. He must be close then, she said, grounding herself in the harsh reality. We'll figure it out, he insisted, a fierce protectiveness surfacing in him. We still have time. We can't let him trap us in fear. But how, Jake? By running? What if that just makes him want to hurt us more? Her vulnerability was palpable, and it tore at Jake's heart. He wanted to promise her that everything would be okay, but he felt the truth, a tightening knot of uncertainty settling in his chest. Ava glanced around the diner, her eyes darting from one table to another, her instincts on high alert. We have to leave, she urged. We can't stay here. He didn't want to disagree, but he hesitated. What if we use this time to come up with a plan? Time might not be on our side, she replied sharply, pulling her jacket tighter around her shoulders as if it could shield her from the looming threat. Against the backdrop of their brewing panic, the waitress came over, her cheerful demeanor out of sync with the whirlwind of emotions in their booth. Everything okay, folks? She asked, her smile bright and oblivious. Jake forced a smile in return. Just a little too much coffee, I think. With a nod, she left them to their whispers and worried glances. Ava's fingers drummed nervously on the table, fidgety energy betraying her calm facade. He longed to take her hand again, but he knew any kind of contact might shatter the tension that hung thickly between them. Jake, I was too naive to think we could just escape and everything would be fine, Ava said finally. Maybe we need to confront this head-on. A fire ignited in Jake's chest at her words. You're right. We have to know what we're dealing with. If we keep running, it'll never end. We need to find out what he knows and how he might come after us next. Ava's eyes widened with a newfound determination. So what's our first move? He thought for a moment, piecing together strategies in his mind. The diner was just a stop along the way, but it could be a turning point. We need to gather information about him. The more we know, the more prepared we'll be. Ava nodded, her focus sharpening as if she was piecing together a puzzle in her mind. And I might have a few contacts who can help. He felt a surge of relief at her confidence, intertwining with the fear still clawing at the back of his mind. Exactly. We fight smart. But just as hope flickered to life again, they both heard a commotion outside, a loud crashing sound, shattering the quiet night. Jake shot up, adrenaline pumping through his blood as he rushed to the diner's front window. His heart dropped. A black car idled across the street, its headlights illuminating the scene, and at its helm sat a figure he instantly recognized. Ethan, the breath caught in Jake's throat. We need to go. Now. Ava was already rising, eyes wide with terror but filled with purpose. As they moved toward the door, the world outside shifted. The stakes had never felt higher, the future never so uncertain. Jake knew one thing: they had to face him together. But could they outmaneuver someone who thrived on fear and control? What would be Ethan's next move? The rain poured down in sheets, an unrelenting curtain that obscured the streetlights as Jake and Ava dashed to their car. Heart pounding, Jake turned the engine over, the sound of it roaring to life cutting through the chaos of the storm. Right then, he realized it was now or never. Hold on. He called to Ava, determination flooding his voice. As they pulled away, headlights casting shadows across the pavement, Jake couldn't shake the feeling of eyes on him. In the rearview mirror, he briefly spotted Ethan's car following at a distance, the glint of his windshield catching the light, giving him the appearance of a threatening specter. Jake squeezed the steering wheel, focusing on the road ahead. We'll figure this out, he muttered to himself, unwilling to let fear rule their night. Ava sat beside him, her hand resting tightly against his thigh, an anchor in the swirling storm of emotions. "Jake, what do we do?" she asked, voice steady yet laced with anxiety. It struck him then this was their test, their moment to either falter or rise shoulder to shoulder. "We turn this into our advantage," he replied. "We'll call your contacts, find out what we need to know. No more running." Ava's eyes sparkled with a mix of worry and hope, and he saw her resolve deepen in that moment. They pulled into a nearby gas station, the neon lights flickering against the downpour. Once parked, Jake took a deep breath, acting as if everything would be all right while casting a glance around the lot. "Stay alert," he said, stepping out of the car. Ava followed suit, their feet slapping against the wet concrete. Inside, the air was warm compared to the storm outside, and the rhythmic beeping of the cash register steadied Jake's racing heart. He immediately grabbed his phone to call Ava's contacts. Information was their strongest weapon. "What are we looking for?" Ava asked as they sifted through a stack of snacks, trying to disguise their nervous energy. "Any intel on Ethan's recent moves? Who he's with, what his plans might be?" Jake punched in a number, the connection humming as he listened to the dial tone. "I'll spread the word too. I'll text a few of my friends," Ava said, already pulling out her phone. They stood side by side, anxiety morphing into action. Jake watched Ava as she typed, the rain drumming violently against the windows, each drop mirroring the urgency thrumming between them. Suddenly, his phone buzzed, a notification from Ava's friend. It was a lead. "Got something?" he exclaimed, eyes narrowing as he read the message. "Ethan has a meeting tonight with a group of investors. They're discussing business expansions, maybe an opportunity to put pressure on him." Ava's face brightened slightly, a spark of purpose igniting within her. "Then we need to show up," she declared. "We can't wait for him to come to us." Together, they formulated a plan, every detail weaving a picture of the confrontation that lay ahead. But as they pushed the door open, stepping into the storm once again, the reality of their resolve settled heavily over them. Their hearts raced not just from fear, but from the pulse of excitement. This was their choice, and they'll own it. The rain mixed with adrenaline as they made their way back to the car. But just as they slid inside, Jake's phone buzzed again. He glanced at it with dread. Ethan's smirk burned in his mind, a reminder of the tension that had built up ever since they decided to rediscover their lives together. "We need to hurry," Jake said, eyes scanning the empty streets, beads of rain glistening on the windshield like tiny stars amidst a dark sky. "He's not going to let this end peacefully." "I'm ready," Ava affirmed, steely determination in her voice. And for the first time, it felt like they were walking into a place of empowerment, not of fear. The gravity of the confrontation awaited them, and as they drove toward the unknown, Jake felt like he was steering towards not just survival, but the promise of something real. They were no longer two worlds colliding, they were forging their own path, a love shaped not just by each other, but strengthened through their struggles. As they reached the venue, the music pumping through the walls sent shivers down his spine. Couples danced in the dim glow, laughter cutting through the air, an ordinary night amidst their extraordinary chaos. "Stay close," Jake reminded gently, his hand finding hers as they walked through the entrance. Once inside, Jake's heart raced as they scanned the crowd. And just then, he spotted Ethan across the room, leaning against the bar, the dark cloud of menace hovering over him. He locked eyes with Jake, and the hostility was palpable. "Let us do this," Ava whispered, squeezing his hand tightly. They stepped forward, steps firm, hearts aligned. "Ethan!" Jake called, cutting through the noise, closing the distance. Everyone turned, and Jake stood tall, ready to lay everything bare. "I'm here. Let us talk." The tension in the room crackled. And this time, Jake wasn't backing down. Whatever threat loomed, they would face it together. In that moment, standing shoulder to shoulder with the woman he loved, Jake felt resilience bloom in his heart. "Bring it on," he murmured under his breath, as he clutched Ava's hand tighter, knowing the storm that they had faced was finally about to shift into something unbearable and, undeniably, transformative. Now was their time. Together, they would rise, fight, and forge a future, no matter the storm that threatened to take them down. Friends, if you enjoyed this thrilling journey of love and transformation, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep the adventure alive. Don't wait not even one more second to share this journey with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Comment below your thoughts and feelings about the ending. Your reactions fuel my passion to tell more stories. Your support plays a huge role in urging these stories forward.